I'd be surprised if you haven't seen this all over the news headlines. No link between aluminum in vaccines and autism. Danish study reinforced safety of childhood vaccines. The media claims that's it. That's all the evidence we need. Did they really think we weren't going to actually look at the study? We know so much better by now, so let's dive in. There is a big difference between the Denmark childhood vaccine schedule and the US. The Denmark vaccine schedule doesn't include vaccines until 3 months. None given right at birth like the US, where we're giving our newborns hepatitis B vaccine at day 0 with 0.5 milligrams aluminum. Denmark's main series are scheduled for 3, 5, and 12 months, and the US is 2, 4, 6, and 12 months. So the US has an extra series essentially, and they include 3 doses of hepatitis B, where Denmark only gives hep B for certain groups. Okay, so to be included in this data, children had to be alive at 2. Right away there, any link to SIDS and vaccines is excluded, because if a baby died before 2, they're not included. Now that is important data, so why leave it out? Each outcome was adjusted for potential confounders. This includes preterm birth, birth weight, number of visits to a general practitioner before age 2. Preterm birth and birth weight are significant factors and should have been evaluated instead of excluded, because we know they are more likely to be affected by toxins because of immature systems. So I'd like to see that data removing adjustments for this, and then on top of that, what was the adjustment for the confounders? That's a very easy way to manipulate data. And why is the number of visits to a general practitioner before age 2 a confounder? That shouldn't matter at all. So I'm not gonna get through all of this in one video, so follow me for part 2. Continuing on with the Denmark aluminum study. So they stopped following kids after 5 years of age. While ADHD, anxiety, and most mental health conditions often aren't diagnosed until after 5. So this data isn't telling us a lot if we're not capturing the majority of kiddos affected. And this one really gets me. Removing children not vaccinated with aluminum-absorbed vaccines by age 2 years because these could have more different healthcare use. More different healthcare use. Is this saying those not vaccinated may not use healthcare as much? Or a sad attempt at an excuse for why they didn't compare vaccinated versus unvaccinated? Because that's what we all want to see. And there's no reason they couldn't have done that here unless they specifically didn't want to show that data. There's no significant differences in hazard risk because they all got aluminum. They compared different concentrations of aluminum, but not aluminum versus no aluminum. If there's anything here to learn, it's that maybe we should follow Denmark's lead with no vaccines at day 0, no hepatitis B and no rotavirus vaccines, not just delayed, but not at all, and then do a 3, 5, and 12-month schedule rather than 2, 4, 6, and 12 month to eliminate a series since they have significantly less infant death. Remember the Denmark study that's all over social media showing that there's no link between aluminum in vaccines and neurodevelopmental conditions or any health conditions? It was published July 15th, then just casually corrected 2 days later, July 17th, to include the correct version of the supplementary material that shows a significant association, yet the article and abstract itself wasn't corrected to reflect this. Why wasn't the correct supplemental material released right away? And why isn't the media drawing attention to this? Because that's a big claim to not be covering the corrected study. If you look for this study, all the headlines emphasize that the study finds no association between aluminum vaccines and health risks. So anyone searching for this is what they find. But that's not the case. With the corrected supplemental information, there is a significant risk. Thank you to Dr. Feister, who commented requesting that this study be retracted because it damages global science credibility and public trust. Completely agree. He pointed out that the substantially revised data went from 2,200 neurodevelopmental cases to over 5,200, showing statistically significant associations between aluminum exposure from vaccines and neurodevelopmental outcomes. But the main text and abstract continue to state that there was no association with increased rates of any of the disorders. So they're choosing now to straight up lie to deceive the public. The author's institution is also a vaccine manufacturer with direct financial stake in the outcome. When we look at the supplementary information here in Figure 4, those born between 2007 and 2018, there was a 1.67 increased risk or 67% increased risk of having an Asperger's diagnosis for every 1 milligram increase in aluminum by age 2. I also want to point out that in Figure 6, There was a 91% increased risk of polymyositis and dermatomyositis for every 1 milligram increase of aluminum received by age 14 months. That's very significant, and children with autism often have multiple comorbidities, including myositis or inflammation of the muscles. And what about figure 3? Males having a 164% increased risk of Hashimoto thyroiditis and 53% increased risk of rheumatoid arthritis. And again, this is such a poor quality retrospective study when they stop following kids after 5 years of age. And most of these conditions aren't diagnosed until after 5. And then those that were born in 2018 were only followed until 2 years of age because the follow-up ended in 2020. So there's 3 years of data where children were followed only until ages 2 to 5. I would anticipate that this study will be retracted, if not now, in the near future. But pharma got what they wanted because the news headlines are what are circulating and what people are going to see. So unless you come across a post like this, majority of public won't know the truth. It's extremely frustrating and completely unethical.